Muscatine City Council will come to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to council chambers. We'll begin this evening with the roll call. Greg?
Councilmember Spread.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Shahade. Natfig.
Present.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
And Lorette.
Present.
6 present, Your Honor.
Thank you, Greg, very much. We'll begin this evening with the presentation of a rebate check by Alliant Energy.
Thank you. Would you mind if I address the council?
Up to the podium, if you would, please, and right into the microphone.
My name is Nancy Snod. I'm the account manager for Alliant Energy. My principal office is located in Fort Madison, Iowa, where I also reside, but it is my privilege to support communities and customers up the Highway 61 corridor from Muscatine to Keokuk. And here in Muscatine, we have an operating presence on 215 Oak Street. We have 12 full-time personnel working out of that office in support of the gas system in this community. And some of the things that I'd like to share about some of the ways that we've partnered with the community and let you know about some of the investments that we have made. Since 2004, we have invested $5,082,000 in the gas system that serves this community for increased safety, reliability, and capacity to support the industry and the residents. We also do a lot of work with the economic development in Muscatine. I'm very proud to be a board member of the Muscatine Chamber and Economic Development Board, and we have supported that organization with $40,555 in recent years, contributing to annual dues, cooperative advertising, housing assessment grant, industrial marketing support, website development, and a labor survey support and professional scholarship programs. We also do support the community, and the foundation of Alliant Energy is happy to partner with local charitable organizations, and we have supported local charities in this community for about not quite $37,000. It was $36,808 since they've been tracking this for about 9 years. We also are a significant property taxpayer in Muscatine and Muscatine County. In Muscatine County, for fiscal year June 2010 to July 2011, we paid $237,000 in property taxes, and then in the city of Muscatine, we paid $143,295 in property taxes. And then that's a great segue to our energy efficiency programs. I'm pleased to say that the participation in this community is pretty significant. We have paid out 2,939 rebates just since 2009. So people are participating at a pretty aggressive level. And the customer incentive payouts have equaled $658,194. And in addition, there are local equipment dealers that participate as trade allies, and they've realized an additional $57,000 to support their efforts as well. And another thing that we're very proud of is the tree planting programs that we support. And the branching out program with Trees Forever, there have been 19 years of participation in this community, and the grants have equaled $75,521. And we like to see trees go up because then property values go up and temperatures come down, and it's just good for everybody, especially with the kind of storm seasons that we've had these past couple of years. To be able to renew the trees has been a personal win for me. I really like to see that. And the trees, it says 2 years of participation with the Iowa DNR, investing $65,787 and planting 1,305 trees. So this evening, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to recognize the energy efficiency that the city has committed to with the upgrades in some of the city facilities. You, as a gas customer, pay into the energy efficiency fund through your gas bill, and it is by participating in rebates and audits and things like that that are available to you that these dollars are returned to you. And so far we have done, I think, was it 4 or 5 projects, Greg? It was the Clark House, the Art Museum, the City Hall, and then the fire station.
And we have another one that we'll be submitting with the Clark House as well for the project that was approved by City Council for the additional boilers.
Great. So we'll be looking forward to that. And I think now that you understand how to engage, we'll look forward to partnering with you whenever you're going to make any investments in equipment that's going to use natural gas, and we're happy to help you right along the process. I know when I went shopping for my own water heater, I took the rebate form along because I wanted to make sure I bought one that qualified. So I am pleased to say that we have $5,442. This is a cumulative rebate impact. And this represents 1.5 years worth of energy savings, or this is going to take about $8,000 a year off your bill. Okay.
Great, thank you very much,
Thank
Nancy.
you. You want to catch that one? Or?
Going to China,
It
so
doesn't,
nobody
it
needs to
doesn't,
spend it.
doesn't fit in the ATM machines, I heard people say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, on behalf of the city council and the community, we want to thank Alliant Energy for your rebate program. It's absolutely awesome, and those are some significant numbers that you've shared with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy, appreciate you coming up tonight, and
The opportunity to speak with you.
appreciate you working with staff to get that done.
Well, I understand you're going to talk about important stuff like golf courses now, so I will take my lead.
Well, speaking of segues, that's a good one. Thank you. Item 3 on your agenda tonight, council, is the only action item on the agenda. Presented for city council's consideration is a resolution approving the contract and bond for the golf course irrigation project. This project will replace and upgrade the original fairway irrigation system at the golf course. 4 bids were received, with a low bid from Midwest Irrigation in the amount of $321,200. The total amount includes alternate number 1, $3,400, for removal of existing equipment, which includes roughly 200 irrigation heads and associated materials. As the golf course is an enterprise fund, this project will be funded through an internal loan. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
That was Tom and Scott for the second. Any discussion, council? Rich Climbs from the Parks and Rec Department is here to answer any questions that we might have.
Your Honor,
Not
just for
that
the
we
record,
didn't have
that was Councilmember Spread, and then who was the second?
Scott?
Scott, thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is a roll call vote, folks, beginning with Tom
Aye.
and Jeanette,
Aye.
Bob. Aye. Scott.
Aye.
Phil.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, item number 4, we have a presentation from Stephanie Romanelli, Risk Management Review. Welcome to council chambers, Stephanie.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Let me figure out how to make this thing work here first, and then. Yeah, got it. Okay. Thank you. And this will be a fairly short overview, but a couple of questions came up at our renewal time in July, or back in June, I guess, actually, that we wanted to come back and give you just an overview of our risk management program and let you know some of the things we've been doing and answer some additional questions if you have them as well. So our insurance policies, and we're talking about basically everything excluding our health and our benefit policies, but property, casualty, liability, workers' compensation, those kinds of policies are what we're talking about here. And we go through a process of review and for the renewal that starts in March. We meet with our insurance committee, and that committee consists of Hal Larson, who's here with us tonight from Kent Corporation. Thanks, Hal, for being here. He's here to answer any questions that I can't. Mark Huddleston from H&I and Greg Brown, also from H&I, are volunteer members who have been on our committee for a number of years and give us a lot of really valuable advice and suggestions and recommendations. Staff members that are on this committee are Greg, myself, Nancy Leak, Finance Director, and Randy Hill, our Public Works Director, and Tom Spread is the City Council representative on that committee as well. So we meet 2 or 3 times a year, kind of depending on what our issues are. Like I said, beginning in March, some of the things that the committee talks about are our current insurance program, what kinds of policies do we have, what deductibles do we have, all of those sorts of things. Current loss information, so we look at our current claims that are open, things that have settled or closed over the year. Risk management, loss control activities, what training are we doing, what mitigation steps have we taken, what issues are coming up, possible areas that we might make some improvements or changes. Possible coverage changes, so actually what insurance policies do we have? Do we have what we need for the kinds of exposures that we have? The committee helps us a lot with those kinds of recommendations. They have a lot of expertise in helping make sure that the city has the kinds of coverage that we need to protect us from all of the various exposures we have. We also look at whatever the trends in the industry are related to costs and risk mitigation and things like that. And then, of course, we review with the committee the recommendations that our broker, who is currently Holmes Murphy and has been since 2006, what kinds of things they are recommending. They recommend a variety of things, including changes in the lines of coverage that we have, if we need to make changes to the plans we have, deductibles, market, whether we should go out to market or not, whether we want to look for another carrier to cover us, or how our premiums are relating to what's happening in the industry, and based on our exposure. And then they make some suggestions too, if we can make some process improvements, policy improvements. Some of the things that we've added to our program since we started working with them are reviewing contracts before we sign them instead of after for insurance policy information, streamlining the submission of claims process, and those are just a couple of the suggestions that they've made. Wanted to give you an overview quickly. This was one of the questions that came up at the renewal time, showing you our premium rate history since we started with Holmes Murphy in 2006. And I chose to show you the premium rate history, the rate history, rather than the premium history, because the premium will change based on what our exposures are. We pay more premium if we have more vehicles. That obviously, the higher our exposure or the way things changes what our actual premium is, but the rate is what we actually pay for that particular coverage. So it gives us a little bit of a better picture how we fared over the last few years. And you can see that our property rate since 2006 per $100 of property has stayed the same. It's flat. We've reduced in almost all of the other areas, workers' compensation, general liability, every other category, except for, which is where the question came in, the police and fire medical policy. And you can see that that's been a large increase this year. This policy is, we don't carry workers' compensation for police and fire employees. And so this policy helps cover the cost of their medical expenses if they get hurt in the line of duty on the job injuries. And we are currently insured for this by Cigna. And we have been with Cigna for, since I've worked here, so I don't really know how long. That's at least 16 years. So they've insured us for a long time. The premium that shows there is an actual 3-year premium, so that's what we pay for the 3 years. This year, as you can see, they increase our premium a lot. And that's basically driven by one large claim that we had in the police department. It was a trip and fall injury, and it's been a very expensive, just shy of $300,000 at this point, to help that person get healed up. They also, part of the reason that this premium went up, it was that they've grandfathered this plan for us. They don't offer it to anyone else anymore. So we have pretty limited options as far as what we do from here. We did look as a committee at the other options that were available to us. We had a couple of other insurance companies that offered to write the insurance for this policy, but it was more expensive than this. We also couldn't make, because it's a grandfathered plan, we couldn't make any design changes. Like, for example, we couldn't raise the deductible because that would make the plan go away completely, since they were grandfathering it. And, of course, we talked about the option of possibly looking for a workers' compensation policy. If we could find anyone that would even write police and fire, it would have been cost prohibitive just because of the kinds of exposure that they have. Their rates are much higher for police and fire. And the final option would have been to pay whatever expenses come up out of the city's pocket, so to speak. And so the committee, the decision made at that point was that this was still the best option, even though the rate went up. So that, I will talk a little bit about workers' compensation, which we carry to cover all of our other employees besides police and fire. I'm going to kind of explain for those of you that don't know what the experience modification means, but that number is important because that's what they base our premium rate on. So that's, the experience modification is the factor that the insurance company uses to determine our workers' compensation rate. And it's based on an industry formula that takes into account, among other things, the frequency and severity of accidents. So they take a look at our history of how many accidents do we have, how serious are they, how much are they costing them, and use that formula to determine what our premium should be. And they use the number 1 as a baseline. Anything above a 1 means that you are worse than your industry average, so we're compared to other governmental agencies with similar exposures to us.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do those cities in our peer treat police and fire the way we do? Or are they carried in workers' comp? Or do you
I
know?
don't know the answer to that, but I don't think so. But I don't know for sure.
We'll follow up.
I don't think that most cities carry work comp for police and fire, but I'm not entirely sure about that.
We'll follow up and get you an answer.
If you're below 1, it means that you're doing better than your industry average, and so your premiums are based on that. For the carrier that we're with currently is United Heartland. We've been also with them for a number of years, at least since 2006. Maybe a year or two longer, but I believe we switched to them at the same time that we went with Holmes Murphy as our agent. They have a dividend program based on our losses each year. We've received the dividend every single year since we've been, since 2006, of amounts between $9,000 and $25,000, depending on the year and how well we did it with our losses. The experience modification rate is based on your history for the past 3 years. Our history, specifically here in the city of Muscatine, is $56,173 in losses. That's compared to our peer cities, which again are cities our size with similar exposures. Their average losses have been over $300,000. So we're doing very well in this area. That's about 17% of what is expected for a city our size. As I said, our current experience modification is 0.77. The absolutely lowest rating we could possibly get, with all of the factors that they take into consideration, would be a 0.7. And that would mean that we would have 0 losses, nothing, no accidents, injuries for 3 years. And Phil's laughing. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, it would, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but I wanted to show you that because I wanted you to see that we're getting pretty close as we can to that number. So, and then quick overview for you of our loss control activities, what some of the things are that we do that helps us to try to keep our costs in line and our program moving forward. United Heartland has assigned to us a loss control person. His name is Mark Pattison. He's been the same loss control person we've had since 2006. He comes to see me quarterly usually. We talk about the open claims that we have, what trends he's seeing either specifically with the city, where are we really having our accidents and that kind of thing, or just things that are happening generally in workers' compensation. What kinds of accidents are occurring more commonly? Where are there compliance issues with OSHA that we need to be paying attention to? He also has come and conducted some training with us and with our employees, and I'm going to talk about the training a little bit more in a minute. We also have a loss control person assigned by Holmes Murphy. Her name is Angie Parrish. She's been with us with our account for 3 years maybe now. And she also assists us with some training, reviews the trends that are happening, provides some problem-solving assistance. If we have a question about a new project we're working on or specific risk concern that we have, we can call her and she'll do the research and make some recommendations to us. Rich is here, so I can pick on him. We've used Angie a couple times for his department. When they've been working on a project and we're not really quite sure what risks we might want to be thinking about or how to address them, we can contact her and she'll come. I think she helped us with some issues we had with the slides at the Aquatic Center one summer, and we weren't really quite sure what to do and what the standards were, and she came out and took a look for us. So those are the kinds of things that they do, which is my next point. Reviews safety needs for changes, things that we need to change, or if a citizen brings us a concern and we have some risk management concerns, we can have her come out and take a look and see what things we need to be thinking about. I think Rich, didn't she help us with the cemetery steps as well? And she's a good general resource if I have questions or something I need some help with. So training is obviously a big part of that. Oh, as a side note, we also have a loss control person assigned to us from Travelers who I can call if I need some help. He usually only shows up at renewal time when the underwriters send him down to take a look at what we're doing, but he is a resource that's available if I have questions about something that someone else can't answer for me. Training, we try to do a lot of safety training. There's always room for improvement in this area and always more things that we could be training on. But the training needs obviously vary from department to department depending on the kind of work that they're doing, the projects that they're working on, what some of the accidents they might be having are. So we have some training that we do citywide. Everybody goes to them. In a week and a half here, employees will be going to hearing conservation training, and that's based on some of the results we got from their hearing tests last year that we needed to maybe pay a little bit more attention in this area. Other training is specific to the department, chainsaw safety or driving issues or things like that, depending on what they're doing. Some of the topics that we've done in the last couple of years have been slip and fall prevention training, which is one of the bigger areas of claims we have, employees tripping, falling, slipping on the ice. So we've done that training 2 or 3 times, trying to reduce those injuries. Training on the personal protective equipment that they're supposed to wear, their steel-toed shoes, their safety glasses, hearing protection. Ladder safety, material handling safety. The fire department has been doing a back safety class at least once a year for the last few years. Sometimes they do it twice a year. Obviously, with the firefighters out lifting patients on and off of cots and moving the cots around, back injuries have been a bit of an issue for them, or a bit of a concern. We've sent some employees to various OSHA trainings as well. So those are some examples. And then each supervisor is supposed to be doing monthly a topic on safety, at least once a month. Sometimes they do them more often. And sometimes those are directed by me. I give them a topic that I want them to talk about specifically that month. Other times they select something based on what they're working on or if they've gotten some new equipment they need training on and those kinds of things. We also have a safety awareness team that meets monthly. That committee has representatives from police department, fire department, parks, the library, transit, public works, water pollution control, and administration, which would be me. And we look at all of the accidents and injuries that occur and talk about, are there things that the employee could have done to prevent the accident? Are there things as a city we need to do to prevent the accident? Are there equipment issues? Are there training issues? And make some recommendations back to the department and the supervisors based on our discussions. And we also make a decision at that point whether the employee should have avoided the accident. You know, did they make a mistake, not follow policy, do something they weren't supposed to do that caused the accident, or was it unavoidable on their part? And based on that, they get their safety incentive prizes, the safety bucks and the safety days. And the safety, this has been a really popular program, and actually I think has really helped us with our work comp rates, because I get more complaints about employees that don't get a safety buck than I get questions about their actual paycheck or issues that they might have with their real pay. But boy, they want to make sure they have the safety buck in their paycheck every pay period. And we have two categories. One is the two safety bucks if they're in a field position, so the people that are out and about, public works crew, the parks crew, police, firefighters get 2 in their paychecks. The rest of us that work in an office and obviously have less exposure get 1. And at the end of the year, they can trade those in for prizes, gift cards, time off, clothing items, things like that. If they've gone the entire year without having an avoidable accident, they get some additional paid time off. It has been a very popular program. I think some people might sell their safety buck. No, I'm just kidding. But they really like this program. And we've seen pretty positive results from it. Employees will even come sometimes to the safety committee after we've reviewed an accident to say, well, maybe I didn't fill out my report quite as well as I should have. I want to give you a little more information about what happened. So, which is good for us, because then we can understand and learn better what's really going on. So, we also have the part of the safety program, obviously, is the protective equipment that they're supposed to wear. Steel-toed shoes and safety glasses, we have a reimbursement program for, so we help assist them with the cost of those items. And then the other equipment that they need safety vests, the high visibility t-shirts, hearing protection, those kinds of things the department provides as they need them. You know, and when things come up that they need, obviously, safety wear for, we make sure that they have what they need. And really, that's what I wanted to tell you about. I'm happy to take questions. And if the questions are too hard, I'm going to have Hal come up here and answer them.
Maybe just one real quick item, in partial answer to your question, Tom. There are, and we have reviewed here as well, there are insurance pools that are offered within the state that some communities do use to insure their police and fire. And we reviewed those in the past and haven't found them to be appropriate for the city from a cost benefit perspective. You have to buy into the program, and it's hard to get out of those programs as well.
Along that line of the Cigna grandfathered policy, is that, I mean, is that something we can continue, or will that be offered in the future? I mean, will we be able to continue that grandfathered relationship?
As far as I know at this point, yes. unless our loss ratio keeps being as unfavorable as it is, and they might change their mind. But like I said, that was driven mainly by one claim, so you know, at this point, as far as I know, it will still be available.
It'd be interesting to know what other cities our size, you know, whether they're on workman's comp, if they've bitten the bullet and they're doing something else, or what.
Self-funded, but these insurance pools, I can't think of the name of there's 2 insurance. ICAP, and then there's also Iowa Municipal Workers' Compensation.
Yeah.
Okay.
something else. But they're basically self-insurance, or they're pools where the communities have gone in. You buy into the program, and, but it is rather difficult to get out of those programs.
Yeah, is it
money back out.
mostly the smaller cities that participate in those?
Small to medium-sized communities.
There are a few cities our size or bigger in the pools, but the majority of their membership are smaller cities. And actually, when we looked at that a few years back, cost-wise, they weren't less expensive, premium cost-wise, than what we have. And so it's been the insurance committee's opinion that what we're doing now is a better option for us.
So this is significant increase is pretty much an accident or a
Yeah, it's all
a loss.
experience-based.
It's all experience-based?
Yeah, that is.
One
One
item,
accident
One
did
accident.
it, but yeah, that type of coverage is experience-based.
Okay.
And based on the other coverages available, it was still the cheapest and best option to proceed with.
Well, I didn't know whether we, the police and fire, were doing something differently. They're more, we haven't added employees necessarily.
No, this is one employee, one incident,
Okay,
one expensive incident.
one, yeah, obviously.
And it was on private property, actually.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Council?
Now, there were several rates up there. The police and fire went up. It looked like several others went down. What was the total net effect on our insurance cost? Did the one increase in police and fire make our entire insurance cost go up, or did the other ones kind of mitigate that?
Do you remember off the top of your head? Nancy remembers a lot of things, but I can look here real quick if you give me a minute. But Holmes Murphy sent me a whole bunch of paper today. Well, the projected amount did go up overall, but a lot of that has to do with actually our exposures changing, so even the rate that we pay goes down. For example, for auto, in 2006, we were paying $477 a year per car, and now we're paying $459 a year per car, but we may have more cars than we did then.
Right.
And so in the last few years, we have added some coverages. We added flood coverage, we added cyber liability, we've added quite a bit of fine arts to our policy. So those things have, changed what the overall premium that we pay is.
Was it last year, I think we had, was it $1.6, $1.8 million in art that the Art Center received? Wasn't it?
The Art Center inherited the other half of the original collection, and it was a significant, it was at least $2 million, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking 1.6 or so, yeah.
And they've also been going through a review of reappraising and making sure that their artwork is valued where it really should be, and so that's changed their value a little bit as well.
And we did that with our equipment loss because of a certain fire at a facility.
Yeah, that was in 2007.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I don't remember the exact numbers, but something sticks in my mind that the overall increase in premium from prior year to current year was in the high single digits,
8%.
8 or 9%. So in answer to the question, that increase in police, fire, medical drove your cost up, but your overall program only increased by 8%. And that is not uncharacteristic of what's going on in the insurance marketplace today. All the underwriters are looking for more rates, more premium, more income.
Imagine that.
See why I brought him?
Anyone else, council? Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hal, thank you, too.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, next on the agenda, item number 5, Nancy Leak with a review of fiscal year 2011-2012 budget basis financial statements.
Such techie experts around here. can minimize.
Yeah, shut down the computer and then reboot it.
No, we don't have to, this is yours right here, right? Like that one right there.
Dun, 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 dun. Sweet. Oh, oh, yeah.
It's a lot more viewable than the old.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Great for football games, too.
Hi, Nancy, you have the floor.
Hello. Tonight, we're going to go through our budget basis financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2012. This is our, separate from the audit process. The audit will, the on-site work has been done, but the report won't be released until probably early December. But this is how we normally look at our funds and how they ended for the year. The fund we spend a lot of time on in budget discussions is the general fund. And I'll just go through our fund statement for the general fund. Again, this year, the property taxes are our major source of revenue for the general fund. $6,735,000 in property taxes. We also had $32,600 in utility taxes, $347,000 in hotel motel taxes, $225,000 in cable franchise fees. The utility franchise was $170,000, $308,000 in licenses and permits, over $1 million in fines and forfeitures, $524,000 in intergovernmental revenue. That's grants from federal or state governments. Charges for services in the general fund totaled $556,000. Use of money and property, $183,000, and that's interest and rents and commissions. And then the various other revenues, $925,000. So the total revenues, $11,041,000.
The ATE revenue, is that in fines and forfeitures?
Yes, it is. And that was, I looked that up, I knew somebody would ask. I think that was $780,000 for the year.
For the fiscal year.
The expenditures, and these are shown by function. Again, like all years, public safety is the largest component of general fund expenditures with $7,410,000. Public Works had close to $2 million in expenditures. A small amount for health and social services, that's the subsidy to senior resources. The culture and recreation area, $2,763,000, and that includes all the parks activities in the general fund, the library, and the art center. The general government area, $1,981,000. That includes mayor and council, city administrator, finance, HR, building and grounds, the city's insurance, risk management budget is also there, as well as the computer operations. There's capital outlay for each of those same functional areas. For public safety, $91,000, public works, $187,000, culture and recreation, $145,000, and general government, about $23,000. So the total expenditures, $15,378,000.
Nancy, I think you skipped over community and economic development. And what would be it there?
Yes, I did. That was in the upper portion, $759,000. That includes the Steve's operation, community development, building and zoning, and our economic development funding of
GMCCI.
GMCCI and
CVB.
And CVB, yes. So our revenues are actually less than our expenditures before we take into consideration transfers by $4,337,000. The transfers in, and that's a large amount, over $6 million. That's transfers in from the Employee Benefits Tax Levy Fund, road use tax fund for the public works expenditures, transfer in from the ambulance fund to fund a portion of the fire department's costs, smaller amounts for perpetual care interest, and transfer in from TIF funds for economic development activities, as well as economic development administration by city staff. The operating transfers out, a few of the levies, the transit tax levy and the levy tax levy, are required to be collected in the general fund and transferred out to the funds that they are used for. So there's a transfer out for transit, transfer out to the Mad Creek levy project, as well as transfers to the equipment replacement and computer replacement funds. So those other financing sources and uses net to $5,381,000. So when we can take into consideration the transfers, our revenues and other sources are actually over our expenditures for the year by $1,043,000. And that's basically our increase in general fund balance for the year. And that's a significant amount, especially compared to what we've had in prior years. So when we add our beginning balance of $2,251,000, we get an ending fund balance of $3,284,000. We do have outstanding purchase orders or encumbrances for around $50,000. So we end with the unreserved general fund balance of $3,244,000. The next page is actually an analysis of how that compares to where we thought we'd be. When the original budget for the 11-12 year that was done in March of 2011, we expected the general fund balance to be $1,673,000. Last year, when we did the budget for the 12-13 year, we did a revised estimate, and at that time, we projected it to be $2,595,000. And then with our actual ending balance of $3,244,000, we're actually $648,500 ahead of where we projected we'd be. And again, that's very good for this year. And that's actually a combination of favorable revenues and expenditures coming in under budget. And I've just highlighted the different areas here. I'll run through those. Our property tax collections were actually over our estimate by $23,000. Utility taxes were over slightly by $1,664. The utility franchise fees, however, were under our estimate by $54,700, and that's directly related to the mild winter we had this year. So I'm sure their gas bills at home were a lot less this past winter than they were the winter before. Cable franchise fees came in under by $10,400, and the road use tax funding was under the revised estimate by $83,000, and that's directly related to the corresponding expenditures being less than what we'd expected. So we didn't have to transfer in as much money to fund that.
The utility franchise fee, the only source of that is gas, Alliant Energy. We don't get anything from MPW.
Right, because they're a municipal utility, we can't have a franchise for that. Next page, the employee benefits transfer in was actually under by $30,000, and again, that's because the employee benefits expenditures were that much under budget. The health insurance transfer for the wellness program came in under about $12,000. Hotel motel taxes were slightly under by $2,200. Building and zoning revenues, very strong year. That came in at $56,700, higher than what we'd estimated. Library was over our estimate by $2,000. Art Center was slightly under the estimate. Parks and Rec had a very good year. They were over by $69,575, with $41,500 of that from the Aquatic Center. And again, this was an extraordinarily hot summer with few, if any, rain days. We probably can't expect that to continue year after year, but this was a very good year. Cemetery revenues were over by $13,000. Public Works revenues are over by 32,700. Police grants came in slightly under at, by 12,500. But the court fines, and those are basically from police charges, those were over our estimate by 48,000. The ATE, the automatic traffic camera fines, were over by 133,800. Other police revenues were over by 44,000. Licenses and permits came in slightly under by 3,000. Fire department revenues, and these are the new fees that were implemented over the last year, those came in 9,500 higher than what we projected. Some of the last two items, when we did the revised estimate, we were planning to run the siren upgrade project through the general fund, and when we received the grant agreement, it said we had to account for it as a separate fund, so that is going through a capital projects fund, so it makes it look like we're under by 50,000 in the general fund. The various other things are under budget by a net of 27,000. So overall, the revenues and transfers in came in 148,700 higher than what we projected when we did the revised estimate. On the expenditure side, in total, expenditures came in 497,000 less than a revised estimate, and almost every area came in under the estimate. General government came in under 39,400. Public safety came in 187,600 under. Library, art center, parks in total came in under 28,000. The community development, planning, zoning area came in under 57,000. The airport subsidy, what we had to make up from the general fund, also came in under by $9,000. The only thing that looks like it's over are the transfers of the tax levies to other funds, and that's actually a good thing that that's higher than what we'd estimated it to be. So in total, expenditures were under by 497,000, and that coupled with the revenues being over by 148,000 accounts for that 640,000 increase in the general fund balance. The other funds of the city, and I've got certain ones noted there that we'll kind of briefly go over. The first column shows the ending fund balance as projected in March of 11. The second column is what we revised that estimate to be last year when we did the budget. And then the actual ending balance for each of the operating funds is in that third column from the left. And then the final column is whether that's a favorable or unfavorable difference between the actual compared to where we thought we'd be. So that first area, the general fund, we just went through that. It's 648,000 favorable ending fund balance. Debt service fund actually came out higher by 11,800, and that's due to tax collections and interest earned being a little higher than what we'd projected. In the enterprise funds, the water pollution control fund came out 51,000 higher than what we projected. For water pollution control, the revenues were actually 65,000 less than what we'd expected them to be. Transfers in were under by 96,500, and then expenditures were under by 212,000. So that netted out to be a favorable ending balance by 51,000. Collection and drainage came out 117,000 higher than what we projected, and that is all due to expenditures being less than projected. In the refuse collection fund, that shows that it's 9,200 less than what we'd estimated. And in that case, we do book accrued vacations and sick leave at year end, and that difference is all can be accounted for as the increase in accrued compensated absences and other post-employee benefit liabilities at year end.
That's the only fund we do that in?
All the enterprise funds. But most of the other ones, it can be absorbed within their operating budget. And in this case, how refuse was this year, it caused the overall difference. Landfill, that's our fund that we're working to eliminate the deficit. The deficit at the end of the year was $1,518,000, and that's significantly less than the $2.5 million deficit we had 2 years ago. And that deficit is actually $86,000 less or better than what we'd projected. And most of that is because there was some contaminated materials from the Mad Creek Levee project that had to be disposed of at the landfill, and we were able to charge that to that project. So that did increase our waste volume and helped our fund balance. Transfer station operations, that's footnote number 7. In that case, our revenues were higher by about $9,000 than what we'd estimated, and some of that has to do with the, again, the contaminated material from the levee project. Expenditures, however, were over our original estimate, well, because of the landfill fees for the increased waste volume. But we do have a positive balance in that fund of $14,465. And so that fund has also been in a deficit position in most recent years. The airport fund, that's a outstanding purchase order. That's why that has a slight, as a deficit balance. But that will be funded from the general fund in the upcoming year. Parking fund, that's over our estimate by $7,000. Revenues were over by about $9,700, and expenditures were under by $3,000, but we did have to book some increase in compensated absences there, which resulted in that net of $7,000 over our estimate. Transit is over by $39,500. In that case, revenues were over by $21,000, or revenues were over by $18,000, and expenditures were under by $21,000. Golf course had a very good year, as did most of the other park and rec areas. The revenues were over our estimate by $70,000, and expenditures were over the original revised estimate by $11,000. We did amend for that at year end, so it didn't show that it was over budget. But some of that is due to the increased sales related to the increased play at the golf course. And again, there was very few rain dates this past year, and it was probably the most ideal golfing season we've had in some time. The next area is also Parks and Rec. The boat harbor ending balance is over by $12,000. There were increase in the number of slips rented, and that resulted in our revenues exceeding our estimate by $12,000 for the year. Ambulance fund, in that case, we're about $39,600 lower than what we projected, and there was a decrease in ambulance runs the last half of the fiscal year, and we have seen those kind of cycles before. The revenues actually came in under by $85,000, and expenditures were under by $45,000, which the net of those is that $39,500. Again, that's a good fund balance, but it is less than what we expected it to be.
Can you explain the variance between the original budget and the revised estimate?
For ambulance, I think we had strong revenues a year ago, where revenues exceeded our estimate and expenditures were under. That was done, from March of 11. We were still estimating for the 10-11 year as well as the 11-12 year. So when last year we came in over our estimate, that affected our beginning balance. And if I'm just going from memory, it just seems like a year ago we had very strong ambulance revenue, which probably made us budget too high for the current year.
Does that include the 5th ambulance? I mean, how is that? Unfortunately, the chief isn't here, but
That just went online recently, didn't it?
Yeah.
This month.
So this is the.
This is showing
This is the fiscal year ended last June.
right, but this is showing reduced runs. I'm wondering if this doesn't set a warning flag for that 5th ambulance is all.
No.
We did pay for the 5th ambulance last fiscal year, even though we didn't get it. We've got a discount by prepaying for it. I don't think there's any, I think it was just less calls for service. I don't think there's any,
It was not an ability that, it wasn't that we couldn't handle the calls, it just, and the fire department, Jerry can show you the trends, at budget time, those revenues will peak, and it's not static, but those revenues will peak, and they had a really good, they had a number of runs last year, but we can pull that information out of budget.
and I believe that they've started to rebound now, and their runs are back to where a higher level. And we have had those cycles before, and I'm not sure that they can be explained.
Mild winter caused less calls for service. Fire chief.
Exactly. Oh, he's listening?
There's an update.
He's on,
The
Ears were
technology.
ringing.
wow.
So someone is watching at home, I guess.
Yeah.
Orthopedic surgeons had a lousy last year too, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a concern about the need for the 5th ambulance with the reduced runs is all.
And then we go to our equipment services fund, and that's net of inventory. That is under our estimate by 22,000. But that, let's see, what would that one? Revenues were under by 58,000, but expenditures were under by 35,000. In the health insurance fund, that's over our estimate by 79,000, and we do have a 1.5 million in the self-insured health insurance fund. In that case, our claims were about 70,000 less than estimated, and the transfer for the wellness program was about 12,000 less than estimated. In the dental insurance fund, we're under our estimate by 9,700, and in the case of dental insurance, the claims were 9,700 higher than what we'd estimated. Next page, the special revenue funds. The employee benefits fund is 45,000 higher, again, because employee benefits costs in the general fund were less than what we'd expected them to be. The local option sales tax fund, it's over our estimate by 712,000, and this is all due to the timing of the transfers out for capital projects. When we do the budget, we try to estimate where street and sewer projects will be at June 30th, and that's not easy to do accurately. So the revenues for local option came in about what we had expected them to be, but we're actually not as far on the sewer projects as we thought we might be. Road use tax, that's over by 40,000. In the case of road use tax, the revenues actually did come in under estimate by 76,000. They came in over estimate by 76,000, and the transfers out were 35,000 more than the original revised estimate, even though we had done a budget amendment at year end. Number 19, public housing, Clark House, Sunset Park. That came in over by 23,500. And in that case, expenditures came in over the original revised estimate by about 11,000, but revenues were 34,800 higher than what we'd expected. Section 8 housing, and this came in 64,700, less than what we'd expected. And this is where HUD is basically requiring Section 8 housing programs to use up their reserves. So this was a planned decrease, and some of it is tied to if we cut the participant funding on there, it would jeopardize our future funding. So we've drawn down the balance, which is what HUD intended most agencies to do. So that's a summary of all the various funds, and most of them are close to or actually higher than what we'd estimated that they would be. The next, and I do have the next, I've got those same footnotes in the PowerPoint that I just kind of briefly did. We added this new, these two new charts this year. Greg asked me for the information, probably for something else, and I think it does tell a good story about the trends in the general fund. This is actually a 20-year chart of general fund balance. And 20 years ago, we had 1.6 million in fund balance, and that really didn't increase that much until the two most recent years. FY 10-11, it was over 2 million, and this year the 3.2 million. And some of that is kind of explained on our next page. And this is that same kind of information, but it computes the percent the ending balance is of expenditures each year. And that's where the city's policy says that we should have a minimum of 10% of our expenditures in fund balance. And we've been trying to incrementally increase that over the years. But this shows, and it kind of explains with the notes, what happened over the past 20 years for the general fund balance. In the years FY 93, 94, 95, I guess through 98, we had close to 20% fund balance compared to expenditures those years. But in the M&E tax, when the state determined that would be phased out, that was, the phase out started in January of 94. And at that point, no new machinery and equipment was added. And then the state made up the difference in what cities lost through 2001, 2002. And at that point, the reimbursement went away, and the city had a major impact on that. And that's when it went down to 15.4%. 2 years after that, 2003, 2004, the state had been giving cities and counties money from the state funds to fund operations. And our allocation was $360,000, and that just went away. It went from $360,000 one year to zero the next. And that all impacted that reduction, further reduction in the city's fund balance. And that's when we were getting down to close to our minimum, that 10%. The last couple years, we've done a number of things to increase that. And this year was actually a larger increase than we thought it would be when we did the budget. But it was an excellent year for Park and Rec. It was an excellent year for people staying within their budget. So those things combined to get us back to that 20% that we actually had been at 20 years ago.
Can you tell me when we adopted the 10% policy? Has it been around for 30 years, or is that recent?
It's been around for the 20 that I've been here.
I think it's, yeah. And back then, we probably didn't focus on it as much as when we were getting close to it. We went more focus on cash flow. We don't get our tax funds each year till October, so we would see how much money we needed to cash flow the general fund from July through September each year. So we did that as a lot of the focus, but then when we were getting closer to that minimum.
Sure.
Now I think we've kind of shifted that focus to the percentage rather than the cash flow.
If I'm to understand the credit rating process, this is one of the primary drivers in determining our credit rating?
Yes, it is, yes. And that's where in the 2008 Moody's rating, they commented that ours was very low. They maintained our bond rating, but it was a pretty direct comment there.
Last time we did any research, and haven't done it for a little while. I mean, we're still on the low end at 20%. 25, 30% is not uncommon for cities our size.
Well, and I think when we do our goal setting and long-range planning, the question is 10% the right threshold?
Right, absolutely. I mean, that money should be there for one-time expenditures that we consider during the budget process. When we look at everything as a whole, that's money that should be there for emergencies, when we have bad years, but it's not something we should dip into on a regular basis.
In the past, during the budget sessions, I thought we said the number we'd really wanted to target was 20%.
We have talked during the budget process of increasing that. We have not changed the target amount, but I believe we talked about 15% as an interim goal, working our way up to a recommended 20% target, and we got there earlier than projected. Thought it would take us another year or two to get there.
So the 20 is very good. I think we were looking at 15 to 16% when we were looking at budget.
Right. I mean, we had an excellent year. Revenues were up, as Nancy said. People did a good job of managing their budgets. Personnel factored in there. Changeover, the police department, for example, personnel, swapping out officers during the year. I mean, all of those factored into that 20%. So.
Now, our 2012, 2013 estimate was prior to coming to this balance, is that right?
Yes.
So that'll change.
That will definitely change because we'll have a higher beginning balance by the 684,000, yes.
Okay.
On the graph.
Nancy, according to this, are fewer people using cable, power and water, or is that the way you read
It's,
that?
when we had MediaCom, it was a true franchise fee, and it was based on a percent of sales. Since Muscatine Power and Water is a municipal utility, this isn't really a franchise fee. We still call it a franchise fee, but it's computed differently. So it's really computed.
It's a negotiated formula from day one when it switched over from MediaCom to MPW. That formula hasn't changed, nor has it gone up over that same period of time.
If you look at the communication utility and how they originally budgeted or planned for the digital upgrade, they projected a mix of users. You know, you have basic, extended basic, and then the premium channels. And what you see consistently in their results is that people are not using the premiums like they had thought or hoped, that the vast majority of the users are in the extended basic area. I think they have a different name for it now, but that's what's happened in that area, so that will impact that number.
Yeah, we have seen that be very flat the last couple of years.
So even with this positive and significant increase, we're still maybe not, you're saying our ending balance would be lower than many our size?
25, 30% is not uncommon. I think we've made tremendous progress in getting from point A to point B, and maybe 20% needs to be our new target, but, or, maybe we don't, I don't know, 17, 18, I don't know what it is, but, we'll look at it at budget, and then, I mean, we'd had excellent revenues this year. We're not going to be able to predict that for next year,
Right.
but, so we'll look at it all. We'll look at, during the budget process, we'll look at department proposed expenditures, what's going on, compare it. I mean, we'll take all of that into account and come back with some recommendations.
And one of those recommendations on this, the summary slide, one of the things that council discussed during last year's budget was the purchase of the new fire engine. And the current year budget, the 12-13 budget, includes $250,000 of assigned funding towards that. And our intent was to budget a similar amount in FY14 and make the purchase then. With the strong ending fund balance, we're proposing that the council consider making that purchase yet this fiscal year, since we're ahead by that $600,000 and so $1,000.
Wasn't like the lead time on the fire truck long enough that we?
And there is a big lead time, and actually, there's some other benefits to purchasing it now.
Sounded.
And actually, it will be on next week's agenda.
Right.
Wasn't
I
it
mean, we
going to
talked-
cost us more?
We talked about it during budget, and,
Yeah.
and there was an incentive for paying up front, and they are offering that incentive. And we discussed if they did offer that incentive, that we would bring back the purchase in 1 year instead of over a 2-year period. So they are offering that, and we'd like to bring that back to City Council as planned.
As I recall, some of the other issues were that the longer you wait, there are some federal safety standards and some federal emission standards that are going to come into play and impact the overall cost of the unit as well.
That's
And they're
correct.
significant.
That's correct. If we held off and purchased it in the next fiscal year, yes. So we'll be bringing that forward next week with a recommendation, and that recommendation includes a red fire truck.
Big red fire.
Osama's not here tonight, huh?
Just for the record, it's red.
Are we going to paint the rest of them?
As time goes by, we'll transition them out.
Okay. The other points on this last slide are, again, the strong, we're the 20.5% instead of the 10%. That really addresses that Moody's comment. And that we do have this year deficit balances in only one fund, and that's the landfill fund. Last year, we had deficits in the boat harbor and transfer station as well. So now we're down to one fund with a deficit balance, and that plan appears to be working very well. We will do a more detailed update to both the landfill committee and city council probably yet this fall, just showing the tonnage and how that's impacting the volume that's at the capacity that's left at the landfill. So that we will be reviewing in more detail later, but the plan is working. We're down to 1.5 million deficit, and that's significant compared to where it was. And then most other funds have good balances going into this upcoming budget, and that's an excellent place to be. So I think it was overall an excellent year for the city financially.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy. Apparently there are no questions. Okay, it's time for comments from the council, starting with Councilman Larette.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Councilman Fitzgerald.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilman Nutvig.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Bynum.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a few comments I'd like to make. One comment is that this coming Sunday, noon to 4 p.m. is open house at our police department and fire department. Come on down, bring the kids. They're putting this open house geared towards education, and it'd be a great time for all kids involved. Just kind of want to tell you that this past week at Citizen Fire Academy, we learned a lot about hazmat training. Again, it's a very dangerous occupation. You won't have me go hazmat trip when it could be a bomb, it could be almost anything explosive. Our heroes are putting their lives at stake every time that they go out to this. I'm surprised our premiums may not be a little bit higher just because of their own occupation. But they handle it well, they plan it well, they're trained well. This coming Wednesday is going to be rappelling off the fire station number 1's roof. We're going to learn knots, and we're going to learn how to rappel. It starts at 6:30, 9:30 is when we quit on this coming Wednesday. I'd sure like to see if somebody from the council might want to volunteer to come off the roof too as well.
You're already on
I
the
think
group.
we'll
I
do
think
that.
you ought to do it.
You looking for a buddy?
It's a buddy plan, That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Bynum. Councilperson Phillips
Nothing, thank you.
and Councilman Spread.
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Monsager.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
And I have nothing. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
So move.
That would be Tom's adjourn. Just a little
moving off the two-story